What up? Is your boy T a Reaction. Today's Wrestling Wednesday or Wrestling Reaction. But check out a video from Manny. So last week we looked at how 2025 had some good moments though, with the best of as well too. But there was some bad moments and failed moments in WWE as well, in wrestling in general as well too though. So we're looking at some of the failed moments that happened, such as the hope the gladly failed heel turn of John Cena, Travis Scott involvement, the unfortunate downfall of the Y6, and the ups and downs of WNG, as well as some other stuff that was definitely a fail or just for wrestling as well too. Let's get it.
2025 has been, like with most 12-month periods, a wild year for wrestling, and that means a lot of ups and downs for fans to sink their teeth into. But while the ups have certainly been great, it's the other half of that equation we're going to focus
Oh yeah, yes.
on today,
Give my
starting
man
with
Master
perhaps
Time.
the biggest botch of the year, John Cena's heel turn.
And I'm glad it was a botch. You shouldn't have turned him in the first place.
Yes, for a lot of years it was something fans had asked for again and again, to see the eternal Boy Scout John Cena finally turn to the dark side. Sure, we know he'd already been a heel very early on in his career back when he was playing the Doctor of Thugonomics, but that was before he became Mr. Hustle, Loyalty, and Respect, the face of his era, and the man who largely carried WWE from around 2005 until around 2015. To see that character embrace his villainy, well, that was a true white whale. One we almost saw rise to the surface of the water in 2011. But once that didn't happen and Big Match John reached the beloved elder statesman portion of his career, it was assumed he was going to Ricky Steamboat it and remain a good guy forever. That was, until he didn't. That's right, it was at Elimination Chamber in March of 2025 that Cena finally did the thing fans have been asking for all this time, when after winning the titular cage match and booking himself a shot against Cody Rhodes and his WWE title at WrestleMania, the then 16-time world champ low blowed the American Nightmare and aligned himself with both The Rock and, for some inexplicable reason, Travis Scott. So just like that then, in a moment which will surely go down in wrestling history forever, heel John Cena was upon us. The only problem was, while this moment was fantastic, it was just that, a moment. And what followed on from there would not be able to live up to it.
Oh yeah.
Why was this? Well, as the story has mostly come out by now, WWE didn't really have any plans for the Cena heel turn. No, after Dwayne Johnson had been called in by TKO boss Ari Emanuel to boost ticket sales for the Elimination Chamber at the last minute, it had actually been Cody Rhodes he wanted to turn. But when Cody rejected this, Triple H instead suggested Big Match John go bad instead, as it would make for a shocking scene to end the show. Unfortunately, however, that was all Triple H had in terms of the creative here. And so it was that while The Rock proceeded to disappear from TV, Cena would spend the next few weeks cutting pretty lame "You People" promos,
Yep.
which attempted to justify his sudden shift to the dark side. And things didn't get much better from there, because after winning his 17th world title at WrestleMania 41 with the help of an underwhelming Travis Scott run-in, Cena remained a heel all the way up until SummerSlam, at which point, with creative now deciding to throw in the towel on the whole thing, he turned babyface once more randomly on the SmackDown before the pay-per-view. What a fumble this one was then, as it was
That
the
was.
botching of what seemed like the easiest of layups ever. Not
I'm glad it was Bosch because, like I said, he needed to be here, man. Fans love him, man. It wasn't in this. It was already. If you wanted to do, you should do it a while back. You know, glad he didn't either. But at the same time, they should have did it. It wasn't necessary. This is what happened. Definitely an example, the biggest example of when keeping it heel goes wrong, and with a term and deflecting the term I always hate is world is I always say no the thing that people think that's the answer, but I always say heel turn isn't always the answer. It's lazy. It's a lazy trope. It's nothing but a lazy trope as well too. Of course, they're gonna try with Cody. I got a bad feeling they're gonna go with it. I hopefully he go against it as well too. Just take the Gene Cena route. There was some boos, but at the same time, be the baby faces, be a face for the most of your fans, especially the kids. And don't care how much WC whatever do not like kids, and it's sad. do it for the kids and the other fans like myself who embraces the good guys. Right, there's still people, there's still adults that embrace good guys and heroes. Right, do it for them. All right, anyway, let's keep going.
Not too dissimilar to the Invasion of 2001. But it wasn't the only botched big angle in WWE this year, as there would also be another one tied to this heel turn, the return of Ron Killings.
Oh my God, this is the ones I'm really disappointed, man. And I mean, they had this gold mine going. We could have had a good Ron Killings as, you know, and it ended up being no heel, be anti-hero or anything, more serious, but reverting back to R2, I'm not mad at it, but at the same time, I kind of wish they did a lot more with it, though.
To explain this one, we have to go back to June 1st. This was the point when 17-year veteran of WWE, R-Truth, was told that his contract was not going to be renewed once it came due soon. Obviously then, once fans found out about this, it caused something of an uproar, as while cuts in WWE were nothing new, the idea that someone as beloved as Ron Killings would be the victim of one of these cuts, well, it was deemed just a step too far. So it was that at this point, audiences immediately took to voicing their displeasure over what they saw as an example of TKO overstepping their bounds and becoming too penny-pinching. How would the company respond to this backlash? Well, not wanting to come across like the bad guys, they'd have WWE CEO Nick Khan personally negotiate a new deal with Truth, one which allows him to make a surprise return to the ring at Money in the Bank just 6 days later. And when he returned here, it was an all different version of the former NWA World's Champion. What was different about this incarnation? Well, rather than being the aw shucks comedy goofball he'd been for years by then, what fans saw now was a more serious version of Ron Killings, one more akin to the person who'd once held that 10 pounds of gold while down in TNA all those years before. Really then, it seemed like this whole situation was going to work out for the best, as a more serious portrayal of Killings felt like it could even see the North Carolinian get a main event run. Sadly though, this would not be the way things played out, as mere weeks after the new Ronnie was introduced, he'd morph right back into the old comedy R-Truth gimmick again, with the reasons for this being unclear to this day, other than it being apparent that Triple H never really had any plans to give him a push in the first place. Yes, it seems now like when R-Truth was brought back, it was done to placate fans. And once he was back in the system, and the outrage had subsided, he'd be placed right back in his old role of undercarder who was barely appreciated on the show. But even if he never got his main event run, at least the former 24/7 champ came out a winner in the sense that he got a new contract, one which by all accounts is a very lucrative one for him financially. One person who would not get a lucrative new contract.
Oh man, here's the thing with this one. You had the chance to get a modern day era like Austin like character. Now, me, Austin like mean a Stone Cold Steve Austin like a guy who is, you know, heel right now, loved by the fans. You actually turn him to a face, not baby face, because if I say baby face, this is why I hate about certain wrestling fans. They think baby face automatically mean they're gonna be cookie cutter, bland, not gonna be edgy as well too. Where you had Austin was considered a baby face as well too, but they people did deflect that. So let's say anti-hero face. Why I gotta say babyface or anti-hero for those who like the term babyface? Yeah, anti-hero. We had the best chance of making one of the best anti-hero face character right here with Cross as well too. The fans love him. You could have turned him, man. He was the best chance as well too. You had a modern day non-face Stone Cold Steve Austin like character. I mean, closest we got right now is LA Knight, but this one would be a perfect one right here. But they fumbled that badly.
Would be his now former co-worker, someone who represents another aspect of the worst of wrestling in 2025, our next subject, Karrion Kross. Now here's one which should have gone better, because after a few years of being in the WWE system and getting nowhere, at least as far as the main roster was concerned, it would be in 2025 that Karrion Kross began to catch some attention when he developed a bit of a cult following online. Why had he gotten this following? Well, something about his devil's advocate-esque character had caught on with a section of the fan base. So it was then that by the time the summer arrived, there were calls amongst those fans for the New Yorker to get a serious push. The only problem was, at this point, Kross's contract was on the verge of running out. Still, that didn't have to be a problem so long as he signed a new one, something his fans assumed would be the case, especially when his sudden momentum online was taken into account. But alas, things don't always work out the way people want. And this was most certainly a case of that being true, because it would be in August that both Kevin Kessar and his real-life wife Scarlett Bordeaux left WWE behind. Why had they each exited stage right here? Well, it appears that similar to TKO not wanting to give R-Truth a new contract initially, money was the issue. That's right, while negotiating a new deal, the parent company of WWE would apparently lowball Karrion Kross.
TKO.
And this led him to come to the decision that even if he did have some momentum now, that momentum was not going to be maximized in WWE. Now, as far as he saw things here, his best bet would be to return to the Indies and there try to build a bigger name for himself with the fan support he had. Needless to say then, while the former two-time NXT Champion's fans largely supported him in this endeavor, they were not happy with how TKO had handled the situation, as they wanted to see Kross do his thing in WWE. The way they saw it, this was a man who could have been a world champion before 2025 was out.
Possibly.
And if he had done that, there's every chance he would have had more success than our next entry for the worst of 2025 in wrestling, the World Heavyweight title reign of Jey Uso.
I love this. I liked it, but it could have been done better and everything. It could have been done better. I did like it, though. I'm half because I'm glad he won the title, and in babyface. So I was here for it, though. But at the same time, I do wish they would have booked this a little better.
Now, Jey Uso is a guy we could do a whole video about at this point. So divisive has he become in 2025. Hell, even when he won the Royal Rumble in January in what marked one of the biggest shockers in recent memory, while some fans were happy about seeing him get a push up the card, others were not so enamored by the idea of it being the son of Rikishi taking up a main event spot at WrestleMania. No, well, Jey had always been a great tag team wrestler.
Yeah, it's again, ridiculous how fans can be at times, well, too.
Alongside his twin brother Jimmy, there was a common complaint about him that when it came to his singles run, he just couldn't hang with the best of them in the ring. That said, even if this was the case, there were enough people who were behind Jey Uso and who were excited to see someone new in the world title scene, that when he won the gold by submitting Gunther at WrestleMania 41, the reaction was generally positive. But then the problems truly started, as rather than get a lengthy run as the top dog on Raw, the former tag team champion's time would have the knees cut out from under him after just 51 days. Why did things end so relatively quickly here? Well, the complaints about the San Francisco native not being dynamic enough in the ring as a solo act might have been a large part of the issue here, because whenever he did have matches defending his gold, the overall response would be that they weren't great. No, whether he was defending against Seth Rollins or Logan Paul, there was an increasingly large part of the audience who didn't want to see Jey Uso as champion, as they felt he was just a catchphrase and an entrance. And this led to a backlash growing to the point that come the June 9th episode of Raw, he'd be dropping the belt right back to Gunther. But let's move away from this for now, because we've talked a lot about WWE so far in today's video. And in truth, there have been plenty of low points from other promotions too. Hell, even WWE's chief competitor, All Elite Wrestling, have had their fair share of failures in 2025, perhaps the biggest of which would be our next entry, the feud between MJF and Jeff Jarrett.
So bad it was almost forgettable. Jesus Christ, I forgot about this. Yeah. I mean, granted, we've read time we got Jeff Jarrett as a babyface, but at the same time, yeah. I don't know what he's thinking with that.
Now, during the early months of 2025, it really felt like AEW was at a critical point in its history. As after 2023 and 2024 had seen much of their early momentum dissipate, a good portion of fans were approaching their breaking point with the promotion. After all, for a company which had originally set out to be an alternative to WWE, constant backstage strife and some questionable booking was now threatening to turn it into a budget version of the WWE in the eyes of a portion of the audience. Hell, it could have been even worse than that, as with Adam Copeland in the world title picture, Christian Cage having a contract guaranteeing him a shot at the top prize at the time of his choosing.
By the way, where they been at, that's crazy. They had this little face turn and everything in reunion, and also I'm not here no more. What's up with that?
And the Hurt Syndicate dominating the tag team division, there was a sense that the whole operation was becoming too reliant on older ex-WWE stars, just as TNA had done when they had gone through their own downfall. And nowhere would be clearer than in the story of Jeff Jarrett, a man who by then was 57 and who had, after gaining something of a boost in popularity in 2024, somehow managed to find his way into a prominent position on the card again, one which saw him enter into a feud with one of the hottest young homegrown acts in AEW, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Really then, this was such an antithesis to what Tony Khan's company had originally stood for, as the focus here felt more like it was on an elderly babyface Double J than it was anything else, MJF included. But then to be fair, by that point Maxwell was having issues of his own, as following his lengthy men's world title reign down in Jacksonville, a common complaint of his character was that it had grown stale and too reliant on edgy material.
Thank you. Yeah, man. It's like, granted, people were. Here's the thing: I hate when people say, "Oh, this person bad as a heel and all this." Well, but at the same time, as people say, you go as far as a babyface, you let it can go as far as a heel too. Like sometimes that stuff get a little tiring. He. Here's the thing about MJF though, his tropes is tiring as a heel. His tropes tiring. He's another one. Matter of fact, he's another one way back when he was babyface. I said was been the perfect modern day babyface fans will love. The perfect modern day babyface fans will love. Again, edgy, but popular, but because he definitely been like a Rock Stone Cold of a modern era. He knows, and not only be a babyface, he be. I'm not downplaying babyface's intelligence. I hate doing that, but at the same time, he be the babyface that people might like because they think he's smart or something like that. Because they always say babyface is incompetent. MJF's like him and I always say him and KO are like the fourth wall breakers of wrestling. They know the tropes. They point out the tropes. They point out everything in wrestling as well too. Where face or heel. And he'll be the perfect face right here to, not be to point out the things that make him a good baby face as well too. And they had that as well too. But right now, him as a heel, it's like typical. It's the same old typical heel MJF BS we deal with all the time as well too. It's like it gets tiring after a while. But anyway, let's keep going. It gets a run like yeah. And the thing about it, yes, even heels can get stale. I mean, always saying babyface get stale, heels can get stale too, and MJF is a prime example.
Thankfully then, before this could go too far, Tony Khan would step in, as during the lead-up to Revolution in March, he'd get back in the weeds of creative, so to speak, with him at this point all but removing Jeff Jarrett from TV, and quickly segueing Friedman over to a feud with Hangman Adam Page instead. Did that work? Yes. As over the course of the rest of 2025, AEW would undergo something of a creative resurgence, one which saw them refocus their energy on younger, more homegrown acts like Page, MJF, Kyle Fletcher, and Willow Nightingale.
Yeah.
But never let it be forgotten how close things came to completely falling apart here, and how close AEW came to suffering the same fate as Double J's previous promotion. Hell, even if the Jacksonville company would get the wheels back on track again post the Jeff Jarrett MJF feud, it wasn't like things were perfect from there on in. No, there were other lowlights for them later on in 2025, one of which would be our next entry, the return of Eddie Kingston. What was the full story?
Why, this is considered one of the worst things.
Behind this one? Well, after suffering a pretty catastrophic leg break during a match against Gabe Kidd at a New Japan Pro Wrestling show in May of 2024, Eddie Kingston would spend more than a year on the shelf. But at least the silver lining to this was, when he eventually returned to the ring, it would be a major moment, right?
Yeah.
After all, ever since he joined AEW in 2020, the Mad King had always been one of that promotion's most beloved underdog babyfaces. Unfortunately, though, for some baffling reason, this would not be the way things played out, because when Eddie eventually announced his re-arrival to an all-elite ring in autumn, it happened in about the most underwhelming way possible. Yes, rather than get a big moment where he reappeared on the scene, perhaps to challenge his old friend Jon Moxley, Kingston was simply called out by Big Bill on a random episode of...
the way, got it. Yeah, it's kind of true, man. I was hoping he'd be like someone again to be part of a whole feud with the Death Rider, involving the Death Rider story being a feud and all as well too. But yeah, this would, I guess when he brought it in, was a little overwhelming. But I was just happy to see Eddie back in the AEW's ring though. But I guess how I went was a little underwhelming though, unfortunately. So yeah.
Collision. And from there, the New Yorker didn't show up for any of the build, with him not being on screen until All Out, at which point he had a pretty short showdown with the former AEW Men's Tag Team Champion. But at least things would get better from there, right? Wrong. As after that, Eddie would get stuck in a mid-card tag team with Hook of all people, a move which saw him pretty much be reduced to Collision and pay-per-view pre-shows for the next while.
True.
Sure, he would get a shot at the AEW Men's World Champion Samoa Joe at the recent Winter is Coming Dynamite special, but even then, it feels like the Mad King's return really hasn't been maximized. That said, it could be worse because for as much of a botch as this represents, it might not be as big of a botch as that which came from TNA in the winter months of 2025. The rise and very quick fall of...
Yeah, I'm so pissed off how they did him. They did him so dirty. They did this run so dirty just for a shot move with that, they call you shot trophy. They did him so dirty. I mean, and it sucks about it was because of the NXT involvement in a way as well too, which low-key irked me because I love the TNA NXT partnership they got going on, but at the same time, yeah, they did it so dirty, yo. Like they could have they had him dropped it way too soon, man. They did, yo.
Mike Santana. Why is this? Well, because after the WWE partnership saw the promotion getting a boost in interest from wrestling fans, they'd seemingly blow all that goodwill in one simple move. Okay, to explain this more clearly, we have to go back to tell the story of Mike Santana, as it was while feuding with Mustafa Ali in early 2025 that he fully started to break out as...
That was a good feud right there. I was heavily invested in that feud.
TNA's next top babyface act, with it quickly becoming clear that he was the one audiences wanted to see win the top prize back after Trick Williams took it away to NXT. All that was left then was for him to do just this. And after initially failing at Slammiversary in July, the New Yorker would finally manage to topple Trick Willie at Bound for Glory in October in front of 6,000 fans, a very impressive number by TNA standards, and a sign that even if he didn't get the win in the first time around, audiences still believed in Santana as their guy. But after that, the ball would be dropped in a major way. What happened here? Well, once Bound for Glory ended, Impact went dark for a month as they continued negotiations for a new TV deal. And when they returned on November 13th, Santana would make his first defense, at which point he'd immediately drop the gold to Frankie Kazarian. That's right, this would be like if Cody Rhodes had been beaten by Seth Rollins the night after he won the undisputed WWE Universal title from Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. It was such a staggering example of a backwards move that few could believe it actually happened at first.
And there's people who was loving it because, you know, Cass finally got the title, but at the same time, could have been done way better than that, yo.
It had, and because of that, fans who were starting to believe in TNA again suddenly found themselves checking out once more as it became clear that all the same problems of the past still remained. Still, there remains hope for Carlos Silva and crew, because not long after this massive botch, it would be announced that the company had indeed gotten a new TV deal, and that this deal would see them appear on basic cable again for the first time in over a decade as they made their AMC debut. Will this allow them to bounce back from taking the world title off Mike Santana so quickly and upsetting so many fans in the process? That remains to be seen. But what about our next subject? Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne becoming Lois and...
They deserve better. They deserve better than this culture bullshit nonsense. They deserve way better with this than this culture bullshit nonsense they got going on right here with the Los Americano Grande thing. Granted, it's getting a little popular with certain fans, but at the same time, they at least deserve better. Ludwig as the newer ones doing somewhat better, great, but they deserve better.
Americanos. Now, it's long been known that if we're talking pure technical wrestling, then Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne are two of the best performers on the WWE roster. And while this did see them find a fair degree of success down in NXT back in the day, primarily in NXT UK, that same level of success was never really replicated once the pair made it up to the main roster and were from there booked by Vince McMahon. But even if those early years on the main roster were pretty rough, with the saga of Butch being particularly infamous, once Triple H took over control of the book, things started to improve for the two Englishmen somewhat. Why was that? Well, while they weren't exactly main eventers now or anything, their new gimmicks of European-style brawlers certainly fit them better and allowed them to carve out a nice niche as the new Catch Republic. But even that would change in 2025 because, inexplicably, it would be here that Triple H decided he needed to change things up again by rebranding Bate and Dunn as a duo of masked luchadors known as Los Americanos. Why had the change been made here? Well, after the dual El Grande Americano gimmicks portrayed by Chad Gable and Ludwig Kaiser managed to get over with the fan base, the game tried to replicate it with more amateur-style performers. Unfortunately, though, this time, rather than elevate the men behind the mask, all the Los Americanos gimmick served to do was bring Bate and Dunn down and transform them from a pair of shoot-stylish killers to a couple of guys who seemed completely out of their depth. But then, to be fair to them, can they really be blamed when they're being asked to play up to a style which is about as far away from their level of expertise as you can get? And so because of that, the stock of the new Catch Republic has floundered massively in 2025. But they've arguably not floundered as badly as our next subjects, a faction who came into WWE with a lot of...
Yeah, man. I don't know why that happened, but yeah, man. Oh, my God. I feel so bad. I didn't have because Howdy, a.k.a. Bo, got injured, but still. I mean, granted, they're tag team champions right now. Yeah, the tag team champion. And they got this good feud with NFT, but I got a feeling they're going to drop into them soon. But yeah, they did way better with the Y6 show, for real.
Of momentum in 2024, but quickly found that momentum being squandered as a result of constant stop-start booking. That's right, it's time for us to talk about the Wyatt Six. Were the Wyatt Six ever going to be a main event level act or anything? Maybe not, especially not in a Triple H booked company which seems to have less time for the goofiness that Vince McMahon had enjoyed. But when they arrived on Raw for the first time on June 17th, 2024, they made a hell of an impact right out of the gate as they completely laid waste to the backstage area. Obviously then, the assumption here was that the faction was going to be getting at least a good push.
Right.
Unfortunately though, by the time 2025 had arrived, it was clear that this push was not going to be happening, at least not consistently.
And what irks me more is why is it that anything involving Bray Wyatt just not work with them? I don't get it. That's where it's concerning a little bit as well, too.
No, by this point, it had long since become apparent that the pattern with Uncle Howdy and company was that they would show up for a few weeks and have a mid-card program, only to then disappear for months at a time, with this only serving to kill any momentum they might have built up stone dead. So bad would things get for them, in fact, as things stand today at the end of 2025, it's hard to find many people who even care about the act anymore. And that represents a major botch for Paul Levesque because, again, while this might not have been the next NWO or anything, there was a lot more which could have been done with the Wyatt Six, if for no other reason than they did have a dedicated following of fans online. Sure, you could argue that the recent WWE Tag Team title win, a win which has seen Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis remain champs to this day, has represented something of a push for the faction. But therein lies the problem. That initial push has never led anywhere substantial, because ever since winning the gold, the pair have done nothing of note with it.
Right.
No, as the tag team division in WWE continued to feel half-baked overall, the Wyatt Six have found themselves stuck in a limbo here, with it never at any point seeming like they're going to go any higher. Could things change? Yes. But it's highly unlikely they will, as we don't see them suddenly getting a sustained strong push anytime soon, given how things have gone so far. And for that reason then, like with every other example we've looked at today, the treatment of the Wyatt Six will forever go down as one of the worst moments in wrestling from 2025. Another bad patch in what has otherwise been a strong year for the sport overall.
Alright, I was trying to stop it, but anyway. Alright, so, yeah, man. Some definitely interesting looks at the worst of 2025 though. Good in the picks as well too. I was a little shocked that Eddie Kingston, but how to handle I guess was gonna be better as well too. There's some I ain't mind too much, like Jay Uso's title reign all as well too. But the rest, yeah, it's let's hopefully a lot get better in 2026. It looks like so far it's been good. You know, Drew's the new champion now. Other than nothing against Drew, just I'm saying that he's a heel. But other than that, at least we got face still Warriors here champion. Let's see how that be next week as he fights Finn. But other than that, if you like my reaction, like, share, subscribe my YouTube channel. It's your boy T-Bear signing off. One love.